Hello everyone, Mirash here, and today I have a deck guide for you. It's about my Symbiosis Nature's Gift devotion. This is one of my favorite deck, if not my favorite deck of all time, uh, and it's very fun to play. I think it has a lot of pros. The first thing is that it has the possibility to win pretty much every matchup because it has a very strong round one, and therefore you can also push the round two, and you can bleed out all the important cards of the opponent deck if you're able to do so. It's also very fun to play, and it has also very high player agency. So if you play well, you can really get the most out of this deck. One thing before jumping into the actual guide, I made a very in-depth guide about the Nature's Gift pre-Way of the Witcher. I will link the guide below, which was the most upvoted guide at the time. And it has very in-depth insight about the deck, the symbiosis management, and all the things. And I plan to update it and also put in the channel a lot of matchups, of analysis, also of the losses that I did, because I think they are the most interesting games that I lost just for a couple of misplays by my part and by just a little. So definitely, if you like the Nature's Gift deck, you can stick around and get also that content in the future. But let's jump into the actual deck guide. So let's talk about the leader. Nature's Gift gives you Symbiosis, and Order give you your an allied unit Vitality 2, and we have 3 charges. So we have actually 6 points from our Vitality, and not counting obviously some synergies. And we have also a passive Symbiosis tag that grants us some additional points when we play nature cards. It will also stack with all the other cards like Aetna and all the other Symbiosis cards. And it's also not very easy to answer because you are not stacking the boosts and the points onto one unit, but you are generating more and more units. And it has also a lot of other synergies with, for example, Gezras and other cards. So you can have a very good points distribution without giving to your opponent any tour removal target, at least not that easily. Remember, we are playing Devotion, so no neutral cards, and this is a very important thing both for us and for our opponent, and we have to keep in mind about it when playing the deck. But first thing, Devotion unlocked the third stage of Aethne. So Aethne, Wrath of Blockulum, you always you pretty much always do not use her in the first round because she's too weak, and you will use her a lot in the second round to bleed. And if you keep her for the third round, or you think you are stronger in the third round, you will get the final form, which grants you 3 symbiosis plus the Veil tag, and the Veil tag is very important, so don't forget about it. In some matchup, it is very important, especially in the Syndicate one, for example. Let's talk a little bit about the symbiosis. As you see here, um, the symbiosis, whenever you play a nature card, spawn a wandering treant in a random allied row and set its power equal to the number of units with the symbiosis you control. So let's say Aethna is in the third stage, you play here, and she spawned 2 young dryad, and the young dryad have symbiosis, and herself has a symbiosis. You have 3 symbiosis on the board. So for every nature cards that you play, you will spawn a 4 strength treant. 4 strength because also your leader ability gives you a passive symbiosis tag. Then we have Gezras of Leda, and this is our maybe our strongest point potential generator, because it can boost by the full row when it moves into the ranged, and it can damage all the melee row of the opponent one turn after the other. So this has also some swarm counter capabilities. Definitely a very strong card. Forest Protector synergizes very well with our symbiosis tags. it's a treant, and we play a bronze nature card from the graveyard. So actually you have to put a bronze nature card in the graveyard to have value from it. It's a very good point slam option, and it's also very flexible, because once you have the Tempering and the Drake Caress and the Nature's Rebuke, you can decide to go for a removal and or for something more proactive like the Drake's Caress and the Tempering. It's definitely a must in the deck. And while you are playing Forest Protector, you are also proccing the Symbiosis tags. So going on, we have the Call of the Forest, which is one of the 2 tutor of the deck. Play a skelette unit from your deck and boost it by 1. Remember, this is just an additional point onto the unit that you play, and can be very, very good if you want to play, let's say, a Gezras or a Defender or something like that. Can protect it from some removal. But also it's a nature card, obviously, so you are activating your Symbiosis tags and spawning additional treants. Then we have the Shaping Nature, and here we have the 3 effects to use. The maximum amount of points you can generate is with the 3rd option, so the Shaping Nature Vitality, which is nature boost an allied unit by 5 and give it Vitality 5. So you have 10 points for it, plus the nature proc with the Symbiosis, and plus maybe the Vitality synergies here. You will also use the second the second effect, so the Shaping Nature boost an allied unit by 8 just for point slamming. But you do not have to forget the Shaping Nature Veil, because this option is maybe the best option, the strongest one against Syndicate, Pirate Cove. So you can play against the poisons, and many times also against the Nilfgaard matchup. Then we have the Figis Merluzzo, Defender, 7 for 9, but can make the life of your opponent very miserable and can make them play suboptimally. It protects your Symbiosis engines, your Vitality procs, your Hamadryad, a lot of things, and also puts body on the board for the Gezras, and also protect the Gezras itself. Finally, we have the Isengrim Council for the other tutor, which is another nature card. Maybe this is even the best tutor out of all, because it's only 8 provision. It procs the Symbiosis tags because it's a nature card, and it also boosts by 2, so it's even better. Yes, you are just looking at a random Dwarf, Druid, or Elf from your deck and then play it. So you are not guaranteed to get what you want, but with the proper mulligan and the proper draws, you are thinning your deck from options in the late stages of the game, and this can play for a lot of value and in a very optimized way. So definitely my favorite tutor option. Then we have the Freixenet. This is one of our payoff for the Devotion tag. Freixenet is our best opener when we are on blue coin, and it says melee, boost a Dryad in your hand by 2, and ranged spawn a young Dryad in this row. With Devotion, we are using both abilities, so we are always using both abilities. Usually we are boosting a Hamadryad in our hand. For 8 provision, this is a very, very strong opener, and with the tactical advantage that we play as our stratagem, we are opening Freixenet and the ranged row, getting both abilities out. So we are boosting by 2 the Hamadryad. We are getting the Young Dryad and boosting the Young Dryad with the stratagem, the tactical advantage. The Young Dryad goes to 7. It's perfect strength because she's out from removal. And we put efficient points on the board, and we have a follow-up with the Hamadryad next for more Symbiosis stacks. So definitely a very, very strong and solid opener. Then we have the Foe, which is a tutor for pretty much whatever nature card we want from the deck. This is very, very strong, pretty much auto-include in this deck. Not much to say about her, just deploy, play a nature card from your deck. It's a Dryad, so she's unlocking also a couple of options, for example, the Dryad's Caress, or if you have the Freixenet and do not have any other Dryad to in hand. So very good. Then we have the attached Serpent Trap, because the deck, the biggest weakness of the deck is that it has no toll removal. And the Serpent Trap has a lot of surprise value, especially also when you are on red. Many times can happen that they just city dash, let's say, and plus tactical advantage, and you play Serpent Trap and you efficiently get rid of the dash and you are good to go. Or you can also just play it sneakily, just set it at a certain point of the game when they have a very big unit and wait for their echo card, for example, to play. Um, it's very effective. It's not an easy card to play. It's not mandatory to include in the deck, but I think it has performed very good for me, even though it's not a nature card, so this will not proc your symbiosis tags. Then we have the Harald Gord, which is finisher of the deck. It can grow for like 13, 14 points also, 12 points. It's also the one of the two dwarfs we can get with the Isengrim Council, which is maybe the best finisher is the Isengrim Council into the Gord, which plays for a huge amount of points. And not much about to say about it. It's just boost self by 0, but it increases the boost by 1 for every special card you play. We play a lot of special cards. Just remember that the Serpent Trap and the Crushing Trap are traps, so not actual special cards. Will not count them. Then we have the Zoltan's Company, and this is again another nature card, and it's very good in my opinion because it's very hard to answer the card properly. Yes, it's only a 6/6, but it procs our Symbiosis. It spread a lot of units on the board, which has a lot of synergy with Gezras, let's say. It's also, as I said, very difficult to answer. It always performs pretty much very, very well, and in some matchup, it's also key to use because the opponents will not be able to answer the Swarm strategy. Then we have another touch card, which is the Trap, the Crushing Trap. Spring damage all units on a row by 1. It means that you just play it face down, then you can activate it manually, and you damage all units on a row by 1. It's this effect can be good against, let's say, Arakas Swarm sometimes. And then we have the ambush. So after 2 turns, at the end of your turn, you damage all the enemy units on the row with the most units by 2. And this can play for crazy value. And it's also pretty unexpected value for the opponent. So definitely it performed very well for me too. It helps improving some difficult matchups. And it's not that bad in other matchups too. It helps also for winning round 1 many times. It's difficult to answer. So definitely not a mandatory card to include, but a very solid option. Then we have the Nature's Rebuke, which is just a removal, damage an enemy unit by 5, and Death Blow, boost a random allied treant by 2. Not much to say about this card. It's a very, very good nature card, nature bronze card, and the one with the highest value output, which is 5 plus 2, 7, plus the Symbiosis procs. Remember, though, you have to have a treant on the board to get the 2 points from the Death Blow. Then we have the Hamadryad, and these are pretty much good cards. Have the Symbiosis tag. At the end of your turn, if this unit has Vitality, boosts self by 1, so you are pretty much doubling the value you get from Vitality. It synergizes very well with the leader. Usually you play the Hamadryad and then you use 1 charge of the leader to boost her to 6 with the first tick, so that she is out from removal range. The only problem with this is that you should never stack boosts on the Hamadryad and Vitality on the Hamadryad unless you are pretty much sure that the opponent has no toll removal, because if they remove your Hamadryad either at the end of the game or in the middle of the game, you are wasting a lot of the Symbiosis procs and a lot of points. And usually it's better to just leave her there and get some points from the Symbiosis, not boost them by more than 8, let's say. Then we have the Dryad's Caress. Purify an allied unit and boost it by 3. This can be very, very handful in many situations. And the second effect, if you control a Dryad, also give it Vitality for 3 turns. So this card synergizes very well with the Hammer Dryad. And it has the best point generation output, both raw, because it's 6 points by itself, plus the nature tag, in between the nature's cards, nature bronze cards, at 4 provisions. So it's a 6 points plus the nature proc, plus it can be some vitality synergy with the Hamadryad, and also the Purify can just get rid of bleeding or the rapture from the Tirsek, of the Skellige Tirsek, the Tirgvi, and some other stuff. So it's pretty staple card. Then we have the Tempering, which is just a 4 provision cheap nature cards, proc our Symbiosis, boost an ally by 5, and if it's a dwarf, it also gives 2 armor. So if we play also the Zoltan's Company, can get a couple of more points over there. We can boost also the Figis Merluzzo by 5 and add to him 2 armors that can come in handy sometimes, or the Rowdy Dwarf that it spawns. But overall, it's just nature cards at 4 provision, so very the cheapest one, and it has very good points generator. Also, the generations also for round 1. It's a very cheap card to display and get good value. Then we have one touch, the Right-Headed Dragoon, which is a movement. Usually you will play this only when you need to move an enemy unit to the other row, something like the Caltulis, for example, to not make them get any value from him. It's also the only elf we are playing for the Icerian Council, so it's tutorable with the Icerian Council if the situation requests it. The other thing we can do is just move an allied unit to the other row. Don't underestimate also this option, because can come in handy with Gezras sometimes. It's a niche situation, but just mind that. We can also just move the Gezras into the melee row, so that he will boost our ranged rows for 2 turns in a row. And another things it can do is just getting a couple of more points with the Crushing Trap, if just you need to do so. So it's just pretty much the main purpose is just an answer, a movement answer to opponent's card with Icerian Council if needed. But it has some couple of other niche situations in which it can come in handy. Then we have the Abundant Girl, which is just a cheap 4 provision engine with the Symbiosis tag. Remember, just you have to transform manually, order transform self into a young dryad without changing power. Just cheap engine to get going from the first round. Also another option to open up with the tactical advantage here. Remember also that she transforms into a Dryad, so she will unlock also the Dryad Caress second ability. Finally, we complete the deck with 1 Oak Critters. We are playing on Devotion, so we will unlock both the abilities. Deploy melee, give an enemy unit bleeding 3. Deploy ranged, spawn a base copy of self in this row. It's okay, it's just a 4 provision cards. Other options you can play, definitely you can there are a lot of variants you can play with this deck. In the 4 provision slots, I will have to try with some other dwarfs like the Pyrotechnician. You can have some rich potential with the Nature's Rebuke. So for random damage plus the Nature's Rebuke, you can kill something good. It's some nice value with the Tempering too. It's difficult to answer. Definitely a good option here. Then you can play the Danka if you want. I personally don't like her because pretty much never you have something that you really want to boost in your hand. There's nothing to take advantage of the Danka. You are taking the same amount of points, let's say, by developing, let's say, a bandit girl or a hamadryad, which are by herself also some engines, which are though cheaper and will be less efficient to get answered. If the anchor get answered, it's a 7 provision card that gets answered, but definitely an option here. And then you have a lot of other options too, obviously, with the Circle of Life, which is the other nature cards that you can play. I don't personally like the Circle of Life at all because I think it's slow and you do not have any way of taking advantage of the 2 buffs in hand. But this is definitely another option you can play. There are also other versions that you can play with, let's say, the Oak, you can play the Sheldon, you can play Non-Devotion. We can cover them other times. This is just my take on the list. I will leave you some games to watch, some interesting ones against also meta decks, and more to come. So I hope you enjoy. And if you want, just leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you're interested in more content like this. And see you soon with more content about Nature's Gift.
I respect nothing human. One falling step forward. It's far too late to suck turn yet. I enjoy that most. Most health anyhow will do. Let's follow.